Hello, everyone. I'm Enelin Paas, and I'm the head of business development at SafetyWing. And we are all here to learn about remote work, right? And most of all, how to run a remote team. And for this, we have gathered amazing panelists with us, and let's get to know them. First, I would like to hear your name, the company you're from, and what is the biggest fail till today while working with a remote team or running a remote team. Please.
Hello, my name is Einberg. I'm from a company called Mooncascade. We do custom software development. And my biggest fail has been belief that these e-parties work. So this is definitely not the way to build a culture.
Hello, everybody. My name is Gerad Kostak. I'm the Director of Business Development for Glia. I think the biggest failure we can see today is not making the decision about remote, about how are you going to do it and what are the processes, and not making it soon enough.
Good.
Hi, my name is Merle and Lindma. I do work for Microsoft, and the biggest failure, I can have two. First is always communication. You think that you have communicated really clearly, but you don't know where the other person is. And the other failure is work-life balance.
Awesome. Great. Now, when we all know our participants' massive experience on the things what not to do, and then now we're starting to dig in on the real tips and tricks how to properly run a remote team. So first of all, what do you think that why even a company should go remote? What are the most important reasons to consider whether the company team should be remote or not?
Is it even an option not to go remote, at least a bit? I think here we have a lot of startups. So a startup at first is remote by definition, because usually they don't have an office. They have their home to work from. They have co-working spaces and so on. But if you consider like bigger companies and more established companies, then I think that nowadays you just don't have an option. You need this flexibility. You need it because at some point your employees need to work from somewhere else. You need to hire people in different locations. So I don't see a way to avoid it in any way.
I'll dovetail off some of those about why to go remote. I think it also depends on the company itself or what it is you're looking to do. If you're going to work global, I think, and you want to be there for your clients and essentially kind of working 24/7 for what our clients want, you can strategically position your team and the talent throughout different time zones in the globe. And you can be running 24/7 without working one workforce, essentially. And with a lot of planning and processes and things of that nature, you can get it going very smoothly. We have that between a few time zones ourselves. There are definite difficulties in it, but that is a huge reason to be able to do that. One quick second is the talent you're going to find across the globe. For us, we have people North America, South America, Europe, almost anywhere you can think of, we have with the company, and they're very much a part of it. We have a combination ourselves, but talent acquisition is a huge reason to do so.
I can do only the add-ons. The way how we look at that one, we have always had flexible ways of working. And one reason is to support people in their work-life balance. There is not only work, there is a life. And life happens usually on the very inconvenient times. You have to go to the dentist, or you might have children, or there are hundreds of reasons. So having a flexibility is one thing that gives you access to the bigger talent and talent pool, which is diverse, in any mean diverse.
Yeah. Participants, audience, or dear audience, raise your hand if you are currently working remotely. Nice. Okay, studies find that remote employees are also more productive. So Flex Jobs did a survey with 5,500 professionals, and 66% agreed that they are more productive when they are not in the office. One of the reasons there was, main reason was that you can actually focus on nobody coming to you, hey, how are you, how was your weekend, kind of stuff. Also, what Gerad mentioned, Stanford University has done a big study on how talents move, and this being remote is very on a top list for millennials. And also would add that remote employees can help you as a startup save costs. Many startups are not having yet that big budget, but there is a report that the Global Workplace Analytics has said that if you're having your employee remote, it can save you 11,000 per year. Plus also we are healthier, happier, work-life balance, less stressed and everything. After this pandemic is over, that we agree that currently we are anyways, like all of us, we are remote, but after this pandemic is over, and then you would have as a company an option, like will you stay remote, will you be partly remote? If they're remote, can they travel, and why?
So in our company, it's really hard to say what people are actually going to choose. So at the moment, most of people are saying that they definitely want to have some office time. They want to have an option to work from home, to work from a vacation spot or somewhere. But actually nobody knows what is going to happen because the reality is a bit different. It's not the same as last year. So if we offered it last year and said that you can do whatever you want, then probably the picture would be a bit different. At the moment, we still have this influence from the pandemic, and people are probably going to be a bit more conservative. So what I assume is that less people are going to work from like really remote locations, going to abroad, and more people are just going to work from home for a while, and then it will change. Then people will feel safe enough, and then they will travel and work from, I don't know, Bali or somewhere else.
Yeah, after we have the vaccine, right? What do you think, Gerad?
Yeah, I agree with you on several of those points. I think it's, for us in particular, we're going to remain a combination. One of the things to keep in mind is even though we all really like remote work, or we really thrive in it, as we see everybody who works remotely here, there are certain people, and this is what you take into account as well, who may not necessarily want to, or either all the time, and they really thrive on that close interaction and collaboration. On my team, one of the individuals is one of those, and she yells at me every single day to bring more people to her to talk to and hang out with. So I get the brunt end of that, which is fine. But others as well really thrive under that. And so I think the benefit of it will far outweigh the way we used to do things, but setting it up properly and not swinging too far one way in response to what we've seen so far. Because we may see the same thing as we've seen before. Productivity is down when everybody is put into one type of square hole, and treat people with understanding their diversity, what motivates them, what are their strengths, weaknesses, and I think a lot of that can be seen as we change the workforce, or we change professionalism moving forward. I think it is potentially a huge opportunity to transform essentially the world and how we do business moving forward. What we do have to guard against is kind of rubber banding right back to, all right, let's get back in the office and forget about all the good things that we've seen so far. But in short, for us, I think we'll stay combination for those reasons that we see everybody benefits from both.
In our case, what we have seen, majority of the offices in Europe, we closed them down in March once the pandemic started. We have had soft openings since June. Currently, we are recommending to work from home. People who have business or personal reason or preference, they can go to office. But what we have noticed through the surveys inside the company is that a lot of people are not eager and interested to go back to the office, and it's not only the safety. So I think we are in a huge change, and we don't know yet where we'll end. we see that half of the people, some studies say that half of the people will never go back to the office. And this is how we look at it from the talent pool side. And when we look from the company side, what it means if half of the people doesn't want to come, or there is not even a need to keep these positions in the office. So I would say that, and we are still in this half-COVID stage. We don't know where it turns and how long we have to be here. So we don't know yet, though. We have discussions what is happening after COVID. Most probably the world has changed after the 2 years, 1 year, 3 years, so much that people have completely different thinking, and the winner is who guesses what will happen, right?
Mm-hmm. I think there is one thing that somehow people assume that remote means home. I don't agree with that. Yeah. Very often it doesn't mean home. It means another city. It means co-working space. For parents, it might mean something that co-working space plus kindergarten together, these types of models. So I think that this is definitely the time to really think what kind of models are out there and try them out.
Yeah. So who of you would join me in the Caribbean in a co-working space at the beach to work remotely? Good. Even before pandemic, in US alone, 41 million says that they are consultants, freelancers, and temporary workers working remotely. And more than 7.3 million workers in US describe themselves as digital nomads. Many, many more than we have Estonians altogether. I've been personally on road now 5 years, and I have no plans to stop. Absolutely love working remotely. And it's very interesting to see how everything is evolving. There's so much support coming out, different services, and Wi-Fi is everywhere, many co-working spaces, strong communities, nomad communities around the world. And also countries are getting more and more open for this and trying to get those remote workers in their country to literally take their work and just spend money on that country. It's just perfect. So even, for example, a German city called Görlitz offers workers a free 1-month stay just to come and try out. Maybe you would like to stay and work here remotely. And all the boom of nomad visas in Caribbean, here, Barbados, and so on. So definitely an interesting times, and we are definitely in a big wave. But in a case if the location doesn't matter, and now you're running a huge remote team and people are all over the world, but also some of them working at home. So the main questions, what usually people have is like, if everyone are remote, how do you manage all those kind of things that usually need this kind of human touch? For example, teamwork. How to make a teamwork, a dream work in a remote team?
Yeah, for us, it's actually really intuitive. We work together with our clients. So very often we have development team from our side, we have a team from client side, and we have teamwork. It has been like that for 10 years. So it's like a no-brainer. And how it works is that we have same goals. We have some kind of structure in our work. In development projects, you usually have some kind of sprints and so on. But what it essentially is that if you have the same goal, if you have some kind of agreements in the team, then the team can work. I think that the teamwork is not something that specifically needs to be face-to-face. It's more like a culture thing.
Yeah, so measurable goals and KPIs, sprints, very good. What about you?
Yeah, so it has been a bit of an adjustment for us. Collaboration has been very huge in that team environment and creating camaraderie and getting it going. What we've had to do, whereas before we could either have two groups together in a room, maybe through Zoom, because we're quite a distance. Some of the things we put into place as far as structures is any sort of brainstorming or ideas or things we have in documents and sharing well up to the point before we actually have the group session, essentially, right? So everybody can kind of explore these things on paper at their own time, at their own leisure, think about it, get more prepped. And then so once we do actually all come together, and we still do, we still have a giant Zoom meeting or something. And that's something you also have to learn in brainstorming about, with so many people, how to talk on it, what's appropriate as far as, when to jump in, when not to. Can we argue like we normally used to? But a lot of preparation for those brainstormings. I think it's better in the long run because it really helps people suss out a lot of ideas with some structure to it ahead of time. But a bit different, or almost entirely different than we used to, than just normal brainstorming. But that's how it's going to be. And I think as time moves on, we'll develop better ways in order to make this remote, make it, make the team be a dream here. So.
When you talk about the team, there are three options. What I see right now is, one is that we are in office, everyone is remote, and there is a hybrid team. And it usually starts like any other teamwork. There is a purpose that the team needs to accomplish. There are the ways that the team agrees, how they work, when do they work. You have to express yourself. So the communication becomes even more important, and clearly communicating. And and listening is becoming very, very important, so that you hear what I say, because when you're not in the same room and your video connection might be poor, you have less channels to receive the messages. Baseline trust, definitely. What do we talk here about? Communication, building up community, letting each other to be vulnerable, noticing and really know how to notice when the other person is down. It's very easy to cheat the monitor and yourself as well sometimes. So the manager capabilities are coming in here as well, adding here the human touch, right?
Yeah.
By the way, I also assume that we never see each other when we're remote. So we haven't seen each other before. We have written, so we have had teamwork, but now we're here seeing face to face. So this is part of the human touch, and even the companies that operate fully remote, that nobody is going to be in the office and are in different countries. Even these companies meet at least once a year or once a quarter.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't even need to meet. I saw my manager last time, I don't know when. We do discuss, but I have been very crowded since February. Before that one, I can't recall when we met, and everything is working. You have to be really mature, grown up, honest, trust blindly, and talk about the things.
Yeah, at SafetyWing, we do gather twice per year, but it's not because otherwise we couldn't get our job done. It's just like a fun, benefit, I would say, trip. And I have also colleagues I have never met, and I think I never will. And that's totally fine. Everything is working.
I want to hit real quick. I think it's important. One of the things you talked about, the human aspect. As we build this thing of how to work together, I think it's important too sometimes to not have a work time and switch out some of these times, so we don't only associate every time we talk to each other, it's all business, it's only this way. And because it is very difficult to see when your peers or the people you work with are down, having a bad day, is their productivity low because of whatever's happening, that normally you can kind of just ask, hey, are you okay today? And it's a little bit different when it's in a group chat or however it goes. Yeah. So I think it's really, really important to not only make up for the work time remotely, but to make up for just the hanging around, just having silly conversations and letting those kind of go wherever they go, so we can also build that way. I don't
know, may I say that, but I know teams who have a beer or wine evenings. They have a dinner together if it's needed, if it's a team. If this is the only way building up the team, due to the time differences, it might be a little bit tricky, right?
True.
But if you're more or less in the same time zone, this is the way.
Yeah, from my personal experience, we are using this kind of cool tool called Sokoko, which is a remote island. And then on the picture there, you can see different rooms, and you have mini avatars there, like small robots in different rooms, so you can see. And one room is water cooler, where you can just go and have that chat next to the coffee machine, and how is everything. Also, another thing if you imagine brainstorming sessions, you could imagine a big round table, people yelling at each other, all that good stuff, papers everywhere, people sketching ideas. How you do that remotely? Brainstorming, innovating.
I think in some times you don't do it remotely, and sometimes you might opt to actually meet face-to-face. But nowadays you have a lot of tools for that. You have these digital spaces, you can have digital post-its, everybody can write, but I think that if you want to moderate it, you have to tackle it a bit differently. So you have to give everybody this specific time when they write, and think about the problem that they're solving, and then they're presenting and discussing. And I think that this is actually really beneficial, because if you look at the creativity studies, then what they say is that brainstorming is actually very bad for creativity, because whoever says something first basically wins, and then people start to think the same way. So you don't get different kinds of thoughts. But if people write it before and like brainstorm alone first and then discuss, then you actually get more ideas. So in that sense, remote can be more beneficial.
Yeah, we do it exactly the same way. Have solo time first and then come together. How you guys do it?
That's the same, and I like the part where some people just won't say anything if someone jumps out first, and you have to be careful with that. We do the same with, kind of like I said before. I want everybody to get all their ideas out or work on something. When we have a rule really about, I mean, at Glia in general as well, is the best idea is the one that should go forward, regardless of who brings it up, whether it's the CEO or the brand new hire. And we really drive that into people, or as much as you can, to open up. And I think it has helped us with the creativity. We see those ideas. And as contrary as it sounds, when we do the brainstorming now remotely, it can be very structured in a way in order to make sure that everybody gets their say, or everybody has an opinion about it, good, bad, neutral, whatever it may be. And the moderator in that has to be very careful, is not to just go with the most exciting idea of the day, because the other three people who aren't saying anything are kind of sidetracked or something like that, or maybe they're not even really paying attention. But in short, preparation, more fleshed out than you would normally see, but that doesn't mean you have to argue that. We just want the ideas to start with, and arguing it essentially in moderation to allow everybody to speak.
We have different experiences, but one of my favorite is that if there is usually you brainstorm to look for a variety of solutions. You do define the problem, what you are intending to solve, and it is a shared document. Someone places a straw man, and the team contributes. It is there, 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. It depends. If it's strategy, longer. If it's a short term, shorter. What it gives, everyone has time to really think and express themselves. It's more inclusive. It's not only extroverts who are speaking. There is introverts. Actually, it gives a huge variety. And then we have a team meeting. Usually we keep the monitors on, we share the document. And I need to admit, during the COVID, that we have learned is that the meetings are more inclusive, because everyone is outside the main office. There are never two people in the same room, which means everyone has to listen. There is not talking picture on the wall. So there is a lot of good aspects, or a lot of good learnings over the last 6 months.
Yeah, I really support the introvert versus extrovert idea, and how the idea pool gets so much more colorful when you actually take time to listen to people.
Yeah, because it's just a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Some process loud, some process quietly.
Another thing what we do at SafetyWing, we have these brainstorming sessions in every 3 months, and we take the problems from client feedback. And then we also go to separate time, small subgroups, and then the big groups. And then what I like the most is the project manager is listing all the ideas in Excel. And then there will be a time when everybody are anonymously voting in the Excel. So everybody has their own row, and you don't put there like Enelin, and I put, for example, Red Fox there as my name. And then anonymously everybody are voting from 1 till 10, and the best idea actually then can win without knowing that what everybody thought about the CEO's idea, right?
But I think that there's also like a wrong way to do it, and the wrong way is actually how teams tried to do it before. Basically what happened was that a group of people wanted to brainstorm, get into the same room, and then there is always this one person who just can't come. So this one person is over the video call, is missing out, and can't actually speak. And I think that if everybody is remote in the brainstorming session, it makes it so much better, because you have included everybody.
Yeah, very good point. What about hiring and firing? Without even meeting the person in person, and how you can hire people? How are the processes different from actually meeting them? And also firing, which also happens, and then give the human touch and the good experience later with the company and everything. How you manage that?
I think the hiring is pretty much the same, at least for us, because very often you don't have only one person in the interview, you have someone else as well, you have tests and so on. And if you have ever hired someone from another country, most of the times you don't meet that person. So I think in that sense is pretty similar, but firing is a bit different, because it's more emotional process for the person, and I think that you can do it online. Have been doing it online as well, but emotionally it's much harder, because you don't see how the person is actually taking it. You can't actually do anything if the person feels really bad. And if you want to keep the discussion really professional in some points, it's also a bit hard.
So what would be your main tip on that, on successful firing via video chat?
Basically same that face-to-face, be just really clear in your messages, and also try to listen to the other part, because most of people don't take firing well, and this is expected. So just deal with it.
Yeah. Just deal with it. Very good. What about you?
So for the hiring, I mean, for both, they can be very similar as they were before. I think we have to look more into, or we look more into, who people are and how they work, and maybe not so much of the experience in the past, especially now, because it's an entirely different environment. You know, what are their methods, organization, all these kind of things. You really want to get to know the people at a deeper level, I think, remotely, so you can understand who they are. Not so much have they cranked out something for a previous company before. And then on that hiring, I highly encourage to bring the entire team on it at least once. We actually just did this yesterday, and we'll do it again today, where we have everybody who's remote. It's this giant, room full of people on a screen, and they get to present all the way around. But in that essence as well is allowing them to really meet the team and getting to understand who people are, and not so much a structured, stressed test for people. We want to see if we're going to be able to work together, if we can trust each other. And it's really to understand, always advice I give is understand it's an interview both ways. That's something I think should be moving away from, the old stress test. As far as the firing part, I think that goes part and parcel with how you conduct, or how your leadership conducts management with their people. I think transparency is key. I know we're focused on the remote portion of it, but you should have full transparency the entire time of what the expectations are, what their expectations of their leadership is. Are they meeting these expectations? And if they're not, what has the leadership, the company, done to help them achieve these things? And there's a process to get there. And if it's just not attainable for them for whatever reason it may be, in the long run, the time it comes to actually have that conversation where we're going to part ways shouldn't be so much of a surprise. It should be expected and well known, understand on both sides. And it should be almost a formality at that point, in a sense. But I definitely agree with what you're saying. It's very important to have that human contact, that point of, you never want to just cast somebody out from your company or organization and never want to hear from them again or anything, of course, unless they've done something entirely terrible. But then again, it needs to be very clear and treat people as a human as best you can on a computer.
Hiring. Hiring during the COVID has been a challenge. One thing is when you're hiring inside one country, the other, from the process point, it's all same, right? Mm-hmm. But if you are hiring someone from Brazil and you have no opportunity, you have a video conference, you do everything, and then you realize and you have made an offer, and you realize that they are not able to travel here because there are no airlines, then you just have to figure out legally how to solve this problem the best. And do we really, I think during these times of remote hiring, we even have to be more specific about the company expectations and about the person expectations, because maybe we waste her or his 1 year if we don't talk it very thoroughly through. So there has to be a full transparency, as you said. And with the hiring, once the person is hired, is how do we onboard, right? This is completely another story. How we onboard, how we make that person happy. Redundancies of firing or redundancies. This is a difficult topic for everyone. I think it's as difficult topic as hiring. It's just the same thing on the different ends. Redundancies should never come as a surprise to an employee. They must be done with the biggest respect, whatever is the reason. Compliance is one thing. When we do talk about the performance, we all know that we might be unhappy in one place, but we might be completely successful in another place. These discussions has to be prepared by the managers very carefully. And usually the outcome is that there is a mutual agreement, we sign. And one thing what we have always done is there are 3 next steps that the person needs to know what he or she does. Making sure she or he has someone to talk with. Do they have updated CV? Can the company support? Because there is a reason. Maybe the role was wrong. There has like 100 reasons. And I think the company and the employees together in this one.
We have some questions from the Slido as well, and I would like to ask one question by Anonymous. How can you remotely support someone who is having a depression? Maybe Merle, Liisu, you as an HR manager can reveal your secrets.
It is very challenging. It is very challenging. As I mentioned earlier, is that first of all, do people understand that they are in a difficult spot? Are they ready to express it? They do talk with someone. If it's completely remote, are the managers or the other people, do they recognize it? Because you have to be maybe in the shape only 30 minutes per day, and the rest of the day you don't know. So it's difficult. You have to build up the trust. And you have to educate the managers to recognize and to ask the questions. When there's a trust, the people to talk with each other. And what we have done is we have a very strong well-being support in the company. We do provide employees opportunity to get in touch with the clinical psychologist. This is anonymous. If they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to talk about it. But I think company has to recognize that this is part of their life and to build up the required system.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Not that Microsoft would be a depressive place to work, but you already support with all kind of benefits.
But it's very difficult.
For example,
it's very easy to get stressed during the time. If we think whoever last over 6 months, there were limited places where you could go. Yeah. You were at home. If you had kids, you had kids at home. You suddenly were the employee, teacher, chef. Lucky if you had a significant other to share that burden. And it's worse as well when you're alone completely. You have no one even to touch. Lucky ones who have dogs, so I don't know, it's a bad joke, but it's a very challenging situation.
I think the biggest misconception with depression is that people somehow assume that something is wrong in that person's life. But depression is mental illness, so it might be that there is nothing specifically wrong in the life, but there is just something in that person's brain chemistry, and you can't solve it for them. So this is definitely something that this person can solve if they seek help, and you can help them with that, but you can't solve it for them. But what you can do is just be there, be interested how they are doing, what they're doing in their free time, and so on, that they feel that if they do want to talk about something, then they can come to you.
Yeah, I really like to see how companies are understanding that now. The benefits in a company is not just to have snacks and ping pong table, but to actually have it's so nice to see the HR manager and CEOs are actually thinking how to support all parts of that human being, which is also the mental health and everything else. I'll take one more question from the list here. There is a question how you are protecting your company's IP data information when they are all over the world globally. That's actually something that I get people being worried about, kinda. So how you deal with this?
Well, in any way, you do have to have your security processes in place. Because let's say I'm not going to Brazil or wherever, I'm just going to be in Estonia. I think that I need to write something and I go to a cafe. And then next thing what happens is that someone takes my backpack and my laptop is gone. So there has to be a process for that. So piping from the distance, using VPNs, having everything secured, and so on. So I think it's more like a hygiene level, and even if you work from the office, you still have to do it. I think nowadays there aren't that many companies who just operate on the premises that you just go to the office, and when you go to the office, everything is secure.
Yeah. If we go back to benefits, then Gerad, what kind of benefits you are providing for your remote worker, and how are they different from the benefits like in the office? They don't have a ping pong table. What do you have to offer?
They can have a ping pong table if they want. They just got to pay for it. No, that's a really interesting question. It's something I've been thinking about lately as well. Some of the things we've been doing, kind of still in the time of old, is sending out things to people, giving budgets for really what they need at home or anything they want to spend it on. Really, we still have the traditional, gym memberships if they're open, depending on what country you're in. Those type of traditional ones. I think that's something we need to explore in the future, really, because what are those benefits moving forward? And it shouldn't be the same as what it was. Instead of the ping pong table now, I don't know if it's necessarily a benefit that people may go to this company for, but we have game nights, competitions, things that work with each other that we wouldn't normally do during working hours, or we have events and things like that. I think the one benefit is understanding who people are in that sense of they're at home, and some of our tasks and things really aren't doing work today. It's going outside today. It's understanding that, or taking time for yourself. As far as those hard benefits, they're kind of obvious. You get flexibility. You get to work when you want. That's kind of what we all strive for anyways. I think being open to those benefits as a company is really, some may say they do it and they're open to that, but they still have a rigorous old school way. But genuinely being open to a flexible workforce is a benefit that we can give to people. But I am very curious to see what actual hard benefits we see in the future, what's going to replace the ping pong table or the water cooler or something of that nature.
Merle?
Benefits, maybe, and you mean remote, when people are not in the office or when we work from home or wherever. I would name two of them. One is stay fit, which is a certain amount of money that the employees can choose. Do they spend on some bicycle, Apple Watch, go to training, take a financial support, whatever they would like to take that makes them happier. That's the stay fit. And the other is the well-being that really supports mental health. And there is a lot what they can choose. It's really a lot. These are like the two main things we think, because basically what you need when you're really remote and on yourself, you need to make your body happy, you need to keep your brain in balance, and you need to keep your energy up.
Yeah, and need to go out from home to meet people in your
If you're allowed. If you're allowed.
If you're allowed. Yeah, we at SafetyWing, we are building benefits for remote companies, so check it out. Now we just launched full comprehensive healthcare for global remote teams. And if we go to one of the biggest myths, what I think is that, do you really think that those people in remote, they are actually working as well? Or they are just Netflix and chill?
I can start with this one.
Go for it.
Yeah.
I don't know how it is, the way how you do it. I don't know, do we pay people to be in one place and like a carrots in a row? Or do we pay them to accomplish something? So I would say, set your targets, say what are the expectations, and people do it. It's their own business. Do they work 8 hours, 16 hours, 4 hours? It must be reasonable. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but basically, you agree what needs to be done, and this is done. This is called impact, right? And then you go through the impact.
Love it.
I agree with you. I know who's working and who's not on my team, and I let them know. Kidding, of course, I do let them know. But really, one of the things you said, we were actually talking about this yesterday, and I think one of the misconceptions of having everybody in the same room before was that you are going to get 8 full hours of work out of them, where I have someone on my team who's been there for years, and I have a newer person. The one who's been there for years is going to knock out that 8 hours of work in 6 hours. Now, if I tell them, okay, I need 2 more hours of work out of you, all of a sudden that 6 hours of work is going to take 8 hours again. And so what we have, I mean, not all the time, but it will. But what we have as well is kind of more task-oriented, goal-oriented. It's one of the things when I bring people on, I'm not so necessarily worried about how many minutes it takes, hours it takes. I want them to be able to do what they do effectively and be able to improve. And if they're not meeting those goals, then why? And how do we get them there? And so it should never be, you know, this many hours should get you here, this many hours should get you there. It's really is these are the expectations, these are the responsibilities. And if there's deadlines, because there's always deadlines, these are the deadlines. And that's essentially it. Doesn't matter to me if someone's doing work while cooking dinner. I heard something yesterday. Someone was actually excited that they could be cooking dinner, talking to their family, holding a baby, and answering an email at the same time. 15 years ago, someone would have lost their mind if they heard they were answering emails at the same time they were home and doing all these things. But the trade-off is that they're not coming into the office to where they can't do those other things, and they get more time to spend with their family. They get more time to organize their lives and kind of organize everything all together.
Yeah, I think you always have people who are really productive and people who aren't and need some kind of external help. So I think it's the question is about finding the right fit. So who actually fit to your company, how you work, and also discussing with that person that, okay, what works best for you? Is it working from home? Is it working from co-working space? Is it working from the office? And I think this is, it's okay to have this discussion, because it is hard for some people if you don't have someone else sitting next to you, for example.
Yeah, we are now on the last question, and let's make it a little bit futuristic. So, with few sentences, what do you think will be the future of remote work? Will we have country on internet and global people everywhere, or what's your view?
I think no one is going to say remote work anymore at some point. It's just work. You do it wherever you do it. And I think the answer is the same as with the last question. So people just need to find what is best for them.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'll still have some traditional brick and mortar. We'll still have a combination across the board. But I think we see a stronger other segment coming in as we get better at it, and we've been forced to see that it actually works. So I think we'll see a much more diverse environment in the workforce.
If we do talk about the remote work, it's a modern work. Companies have to take into account what are people's preferences. And this is it. It's a new life.
Thank you very much.